Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something huge that's really shaking up the global AI scene. Moonshot AI's Kimi K2. All right, so here's how we're gonna break this down. First, we'll get into why Kimi K2 is such a huge moment. Then, we'll pop the hood and see what makes it tick, how it actually performs against the big guys, and what the real-world trade-offs are. And to wrap it all up, we'll zoom out and look at the bigger picture, where this fits into China's massive push in AI. Okay, let's just jump right in. People are calling Kimi K2's release a DeepSeek moment. Now, that's not just some random buzzword. It's a really specific comparison, and it means something big. It signals that a super powerful open-weight model from China is stepping into the ring and directly challenging the big, closed-off models we're used to from the West. Yeah, this isn't just another model release. This is a major statement. So, what's all the fuss about? Why is KK2 such a game changer? Well, it all boils down to this trifecta of strategic advantages that honestly has made it a major contender almost overnight. Okay, so first up, its architecture is just super innovative. It uses this really smart design to be both huge and incredibly efficient. Second, it's not just a chatbot. It was trained from day one to be an autonomous agent, to do things. And third, and this is a big one, its open-weight, low-cost model is a massive economic threat to companies like OpenAI and Anthropic. All right, let's pop the hood. To really get what Kimi K2 is all about, you've got to understand the pretty unique philosophy and the seriously clever engineering that went into building what they call its agentic mind. First things first, you have to get this core idea. Kimi K2 was built for agentic intelligence. And folks, this is a huge leap. We're talking about moving way beyond just generating text or answering a question. We're stepping into the world of autonomous task execution. I mean, an AI that can actually plan and act on its own to get stuff done. That's a different ballgame. And the scale here, it's just mind-boggling. Kimi K2 is a 1 trillion parameter model. A trillion! That puts it right up there with the largest, most powerful models ever built. That's the kind of raw horsepower we're dealing with. But here's where it gets really, really clever. Thanks to a design called Mixture of Experts, or MOE, it doesn't use all 1 trillion parameters at once. For any given task, it only activates a small slice, about 32 billion. It's kind of like having access to the world's biggest library, but when you ask a question, you have a genius librarian who instantly pulls just the 3 or 4 perfect books you need, instead of making you read the whole building. It's incredibly efficient. And that right there, that's the core of their strategy. You get all the deep knowledge of a massive trillion-parameter model, but the running cost is more like a much, much smaller one. It's like getting the best of both worlds. Now, trying to train a model this huge is, well, it's notoriously difficult. These things are incredibly unstable. They can literally just fail spectacularly, wasting millions of dollars in the process. But Moonshot AI came up with this breakthrough called the muon clip optimizer. You can think of it like a safety valve that stops the whole training process from just spiraling out of control. And the result? They trained this absolute beast on 15.5 times trillion tokens with 0 failures. That is a massive achievement in AI engineering, period. Okay, so the tech sounds impressive, right? But how good is it really? Does all that fancy engineering actually translate to top-tier performance? Let's get to the proof, because the numbers here really do tell the story. When it comes to coding, this thing is an absolute beast. On the SW bench, which is a really tough test with real-world software problems, Kimi K2 hits a 65.8% accuracy on its very first try. Now, that doesn't just beat GPT 4.1, it puts it right up there, neck and neck, with the best of the Claude models. And you see the same pattern of just excellence pretty much across the board. It doesn't matter if you're looking at advanced reasoning with GPQA or super complex math problems in AME, or what it's really built for using tools like an agent on the Tao2 bench. Kimi K2 is consistently at or near the very top. In fact, it's beating its main rivals in several of these key areas. But here's the thing. Benchmarks are one thing, the real world is another. They don't tell the whole story. When you actually go to use these models, you as a developer run into a really critical, really practical trade-off. And this is the bottom line right here. To run Kimi K2 through an API, it's about 10 times cheaper than its main competitor, Claude Sonnet 4. I mean, that is a gigantic economic advantage. But, and it's a big but, On standard, everyday hardware, it's also almost 3 times slower. So that creates a really clear choice for developers. Do you want to save a ton of money, or do you need top speed? So on normal hardware, that slow speed works out to about 34 tokens per second. Now, if you're building something interactive like a chatbot, that delay is something you can actually feel. It just feels a little sluggish. And what's really interesting is that the model is capable of incredible speeds. We're talking over 400 tokens per second. But you only get that performance on super specialized hardware, like Grok's custom chips. So what that shows is a deep reliance on specialized infrastructure that, let's be honest, most developers just don't have access to. Okay, now it's time to zoom out. Because Kimi K2 is not just some isolated product release. You have to see it as the leading edge of a huge strategic shift in the global AI game, a shift being led by China's biggest tech companies. I mean, look at this. Moonshot AI's growth has been nothing short of explosive. It was founded in early 2023, and less than 2 years later, it hit a staggering $3.3 billion valuation. And check out who's writing the checks. We're talking about Chinese tech royalty, Alibaba and Tencent. This is not just some scrappy startup. This is being built up as a national champion. And that decision to release these incredibly powerful models out into the open, yeah, that's not charity. It is a very calculated, very strategic move. It's about building soft power, right? Positioning China as an AI innovation leader. It's about getting priceless feedback from a global network of what are essentially free testers. But maybe most importantly, it's about getting developers all over the world hooked on their ecosystem, making it the default choice. The end game here is a classic platform play. The whole strategy is to commoditize the foundational model, basically make it so good and so cheap that it just becomes the standard. You don't win by selling the model itself, you win by owning the entire ecosystem that gets built on top of it. Okay, so let's wrap this all up. What are the key takeaways? First, Kimi K2 is a genuinely top-tier model, especially for coding and for agent-like tasks. Second, its economics are a massive disruption. It's about 10 times cheaper than its competitors. But third, it comes with that very real trade-off. You get low cost, but you also get high latency. And finally, you have to see this as a key piece in a much larger geopolitical strategy from China to win the future of AI with this open weight push. And that leaves us with a really provocative question. The release of models like Kimi K2 has drawn a clear line in the sand for the next era of technology. The AI world is now split between two competing visions: the West's closed, high-cost proprietary ecosystems, and this new, incredibly formidable Chinese-led open-weight movement. Which path will the future be built on? Well, the race is definitely on.